At least I'm doing better than other people sounds like you're expressing gratitude, but other times it's actually an excuse. And I know that is a very uncomfortable distinction. We're always being told, be grateful for what we have, be grateful you have a job, that you have a relationship, that you're ahead of someone else. But it can get to the point where your gratitude is the reason why you stop asking for more. You don't feel motivated. The reason you feel like you don't need to go hard. Because yes, I'm doing the most people can be true. And that can also keep you from becoming the person you want to be. Welcome back to Be a Better Baddie. My name is Quenisha. I am your host, coach, teacher, and fellow baddie. And as you can see today, we are talking about balancing gratitude and drive, feeling like you deserve more, and then actually having the drive to go for those things. Because appreciating where you are and still feeling like you can do more are two different things. And I want to just dive into that a little bit. I think it begins with our mindset. We are really comfortable with downward comparison. We can look at someone who has less than us and say, well, at least I have a job, or at least I'm healthier. And there's nothing wrong with recognizing that what you have is more than someone else and that you have that thing. The problem comes when that is the end of the conversation. That's it. At least I have more than the other person. And this is where I think the deservingness of it all comes into play. It feels more comfortable to say I'm doing better than most people than it is to say I do want to make more money. I do want a leaner body. I do want a better relationship with myself. I do want to build something bigger, right? The minute you admit that you want more, you probably feel like you have to do something about it. You're more likely to want to do something about it. And kudos to you. If you do want to do something about it, you know I got you. That's exactly what we do in the Baddie Circle, because your goals deserve more than to just sit in your notes app. Your goals deserve to be thoughtfully planned out and even renegotiated to fit your lifestyle. If you have that mindset that I'm already doing good, I don't need to do more, that turns into a behavior because our beliefs directly influence what we do. If you've already been telling yourself better than average is the standard, then why would you push yourself anymore? You're already grateful for what you have. And you will always, always have the evidence to point and say, I'm already doing good enough. I don't need to do no more. And all that does is make you feel better about not solving the problem. Let's say you are doing financially better than most people your age. That's awesome. That's great. But you also told yourself, I want to build a 6-month emergency fund. And you still haven't done that. Just because you're better off financially than the people your age doesn't excuse you from the fact that you said you wanted to build that 6-month emergency fund and you don't have it. That downward comparison makes you feel like you are safe. And that's why being driven isn't about having the biggest goal in the room or being super ambitious. Drive shows up in your actions, because if your mindset keeps telling you that you're doing perfectly fine, there's no need for you to do anything extra, you're doing enough, then eventually your behavior is going to agree with that. So I can see this in my own life. I'm actively on a weight loss journey. I need to shed some pounds. And I can easily say, I have more muscle than my peers, or I'm not as big as some people that I see. And that's true, but that's not what I want. I want to be leaner. Let me be loud and clear with you. That's what I'm actively pursuing. And baby, we got to the end of the year to get this done because it's a slow but rewarding process. I will say this is the first time I've actively stayed committed to seeing a weight loss journey through. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. Seeing the slow progress in response to being consistent is so rewarding. But if I kept relying on those comparisons that I made earlier, then that would just convince myself, well, there's no need for you to track your protein. There's no reason for you to hit your 10K steps today, then it's okay. And then you slowly start loosening up the grip. You got to keep yourself on a tight leash sometimes, because if you don't, nobody else will. And the biggest problem is that I'm comparing myself to other people. I'm grateful for my health, but I'm better than average. And that's not what I want my standard to be. I never want my standard to be based on what other people have or don't have. I want my standard to be based on what I want for me, and I want you to have the same respect for yourself. Not me being mad at y'all. I want you to have the same respect for yourself. If you're watching the video rather than listening to this, I am pointing directly at you. Someone else struggling with something doesn't automatically mean you're thriving. That's the most important distinction I want you to leave here with. Okay, I won't lie. Like, originally, this was an idea that I just came up with. I was working out and I don't even know where it came from. I was like, ooh. And I immediately was like, gotta write this down, right? So, this is called the social comparison theory. And it says that we naturally compare ourselves to other people as a way of evaluating ourselves. And the downward comparison, so comparing ourselves to people who we perceive as being worst off, can make us feel better about ourselves. So you're protecting your self-esteem, you're getting that assurance. It makes you feel like everything's going to be okay because we're doing our comparison, right? And we're like, not as bad as her. So whoop-de-doo, life's great. But the catch is too much downward comparison can lead to complacency and decreased motivation. So there was one study where researchers followed 349 people for 6 days and they collected more than 8,000 real life comparison experiences. And on those days when people engaged in more downward comparisons, so when they looked at other people and said, I'm better than you, I'm better than you, I'm better than you, their motivation actually decreased. And researchers call this coasting. I didn't know that coasting was like a research-based term. And all of us have experienced that. All of us felt like we can do better, but we do less. I think that's where I was with my previous role in terms of be a better baddie. I felt so complacent that I stopped moving because at least I'm pursuing my business while I still have a full-time job. I'm not like those other entrepreneurs. Newsflash, I am. So feeling good and making progress are not the same thing. You can have that emotional relief for not being in someone else's situation, but then it hinders your growth. So what do we do instead of this? So instead of being in this constant state of comparing yourself to others, especially downward comparisons, you want to ask yourself, am I doing better than I used to be? Am I moving towards being the person that I said I wanted to become? Am I meeting the standard that I set for myself? The research also said that people who are more focused on growth, comparing their current selves to their past selves is more useful. Because your past self gives you something that comparison to other people can't give you. It gives you context, right? You know who you used to be versus who you are now. I know as a teacher, I did not have good boundaries, work-life boundaries, but now I can look back and say, I know how to set a boundary. Like, I am very good at compartmentalizing. I can look back at past self and say, hey, I used to go into a gym and had no idea what to do, would literally be embarrassed for whatever reason. But now I can walk into a gym and I know exactly what I'm going to do. Actually, I wrote down the plan. I have a plan of what I'm doing. I know what I came here to achieve. Or maybe you were terrified to put yourself out there before, but now you don't mind sitting in front of the camera in front of your living room and exposing your secrets to the world. You don't need to be better than other people for it to count. You need to be better than your past self. That is the true progress. Now, of course, I'm going to tie this back to the baddie circle. In the baddie circle, we don't sit around and just say, well, at least you're doing more than other people. At least you're not like her. Instead, we ask, so what did you say you were going to do? Okay. What is actually important for you to do? Because I don't want you to build a life that looks impressive compared to someone else's life. I want you to build a life that feels like yours and you're impressed with because it's your life. Now, if your goal is to be better than other people, you have two options. Get ahead and become complacent because you were comparing yourself to someone else's success. Or you can fall behind and then get discouraged because, dang, I thought I was better than that person. You should do neither, right? Life is not a competition that you win in the end because you did better than someone else or worse than someone else, right? Doing better than someone who's already doing worse than you. That's not iconic. That's not being a baddie. Being a baddie is being in your own lane, right? You are focused on your own vehicle moving from spot to spot to spot. You're not always looking around being like, oh, what's this person doing? Okay, I need to do this to be better than this person. No, you're paying attention to yourself. You're paying attention to your values. You're paying attention to what you said you were going to do. So I want you to actually think, like, start catching yourself. Are you saying, at least I'm doing better than this person? And if you catch yourself saying that, just stop for a minute and be like, okay, but am I living up to the standard that I chose for myself? Gratitude should keep you grounded, but never stagnant. Now, I am going to leave you there, and I hope you have a positively productive, self-loving day. Bye.